So how does this concept of completing the square work with circles? So here we go. We are going to find the center and the radius of the circle expressed by this equation. And that's a big mess. And remember, we like to look at our circle equations like this. X minus h, the quantity squared, y minus k, the quantity squared, equals r squared. We want it to look like that. So we are going to use this completing the square process to create this quantity squared and this quantity squared from these numbers. We're going to force them to fit that pattern. So here's what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to group our x's together, our y's together, and we're going to move that 4 to the other side. So I have x squared minus 4x plus, leave a blank, plus y squared plus 2y plus, leave a blank, is equal to, I'm going to subtract 4, minus 4 plus 1 blank plus the second blank. And those correspond to this one and this one. So I remind whatever I'm doing to one side, I have to do to the other. So completing the square says take half of this term, which is 2, then I'm going to square it, and I'm going to write 2 squared. If you want to write 4 over here, or 2 squared, that's fine. But in this first slot, put 2 squared. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to take half that middle term, which is 1. I'm going to square it, and I'm going to write 1 squared, and I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Now, because I made it so, I made it fit the pattern, this x business will factor into this base, this sign, this base, the quantity squared, plus this side will factor into this base, the first sign, and the base, that's why I don't square them, equal to minus 4 plus 4 is 0, plus 1 equals 1. Now we can clearly see my center is at 2 minus 1, and my radius, the square root of 1, is 1. And so while it looks extremely complicated, it's just a couple of simple steps to unfactor, unfoil that equation. So let's look at another example. I think I skipped one. Let's go back. There's one in your notes. That says x squared minus 4x plus y squared minus 6y plus 9 equals 0. I accidentally skipped that one. So let's do that one now. This is where all our steps are. So first of all, we're going to put our x's together, put our constants together, and get rid of that 9. So I've got x squared minus 4x plus, leave that blank, put your y's together, y squared minus 6y plus, leave that blank, equals, subtract 9, be really careful with your signs, minus 9 plus a blank plus a blank. Half of 4 is 2, then we square it, 2 squared. So I'm going to add 4. Half of 6 is 3. Square it. I've got 3 squared, so I'm going to add 9. Because I made it so, this factors into the base, the first sign, the base, the quantity squared, plus the base, the sign, the base, the quantity squared, equals negative 9 and 9 is 0. It equals 4. So my center is at 2, 3, and my radius is at 2, because remember, this formula equals radius squared. So if you're in regular geometry, you can stop your video. If you're in Excel, I will do the last example now. So in this example, you can see I have a problem. I don't have a lead coefficient of 1, and that creates some problems in my completing the square. Easily fixed. Go ahead and divide everything by 4. Now that's pretty easy because these both have a lead coefficient of 4. And so I'm going to have x squared minus 4x plus y squared minus 6y plus 51/4 equals 0. Leave that as a fraction and you'll see why in a minute. Remember, what I do to one side I have to do to the other. I can do that division because it's equal to 0, so I can divide every single piece by 4 on both sides. Now my process is the same, so I'm going to have x squared minus 4x plus leave a blank plus y squared minus 6y plus leave a blank is equal to negative 51/4 plus leave a blank plus leave a blank. So subtracting 51/4. Come in and complete the square. Half of 4 is 2, 2 squared, 2 squared. Half of 6 is 3, 3 squared, 3 squared. So this side factors into x minus 2, the quantity squared, plus y minus 3, the quantity squared, equal to, now I got to do a little bit of fraction work over on the side. So 2 squared is 4. If I want to add fractions, I need to create common denominators. And so what I have is negative 51/4 plus 16/4 plus 36/4. When I get done adding all of my fractions, I have x minus 2, the quantity squared, plus y minus 3, quantity squared, is equal to 1/4. Still leave that as a fraction because my center is at 2, 3. And if this 1/4 is equal to r squared, and you square root both sides, the square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 4 is 2, and so my radius is 1/2. So everything works out nice and exact if I stay away from decimals and leave everything as a fraction. They're much easier to handle. Good luck on your homework.